A lot of businesses obsess over performance marketing, spending every dollar that they have in their marketing budget trying to generate the fastest return possible. We've managed north of $20 million of people's ad spend at Digital Simple. One thing that we have seen without a shadow of a doubt is that if you never invest in your brand, your performance marketing becomes harder and continues to get more expensive as you just focus solely on performance marketing. Don't get me wrong. Performance marketing works, and we've seen it work in a big way. I did a podcast episode with someone the other day, and we worked out that we had north of $800 million of attributed sales back to the Facebook advertising that we've run for their business. It works, and it seriously works, especially if you set it up in the right system and process and you have the right sales team that sits behind it or the right landing pages and website to drive traffic to. What you have to consider is that performance marketing feels really good right now. Brand work feels really good later. And so I often will speak with people about the investment in brand rather than the investment in performance marketing, because it is just a little bit more of that. You put it away and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you see the returns in 12 months, 18 months, over a far longer time frame. Whereas it is completely realistic to run performance marketing that gives you a return inside of 3 months. Some interesting stats to align with what I'm saying are that businesses with strong brands can see up to 2 times higher conversion rates. And I estimate that that's because the salespeople, when they're coming in and they're responding to these leads, or when people are hitting the website, the business itself doesn't need to go through that who we are process with their customers. And instead, people already know who they are. They're already sure that they want to work with them. They have the whole story. They've bought into the whole process, and they're much easier to work with as a result of that. 81% of consumers need to trust a brand before buying. That's from the Edelman Trust Report. Really interesting stat also. When I think about my own consumption of content online and the businesses that I purchase things from, my habit aligns with that too. I love to see a few messages from something before I just check out, or some stats, or reviews, anything like that. A really interesting case study that I learned about that aligns with what I'm talking about right now is New Balance. I think that everyone that's involved in sneakers or that has any sort of interest in what's current and new and exciting is aware of what's happened to New Balance over the last few years. Something that's really interesting about that is New Balance essentially flipped the script on the way that they were running advertising. Traditionally, they'd run 80% performance-based, call-to-action, sales-driven marketing and 20% brand work. They hired a new president of marketing in New Balance, and that person took a punt and completely flipped that on its head. They went to 80% brand-based work, 20% call to action. They ran campaigns like #MyNewBalance to build emotional connections with their audience. They focused on content and engagement. They used brand awareness ads plus organic strategy to warm up ads, and then they used that bottom 20% of their budget to close those warm audiences rather than trying to just drive traffic at the start. Obviously, no case study is a case study without results. New Balance did $6.5 billion in sales, up 23% year on year, and nearly 2 times since 2020 last year. So you can see that for a period of time, and I heard this on a podcast I was saying the other day, their revenue actually dropped after focusing on brand over performance marketing, and that's because they're obviously not getting that return from performance that they were running off like an addict, right? Once the brand work has time to cultivate and mature, they're then able to leverage off that, and their performance-based marketing they run is considerably more effective. They also now have an 88% brand awareness throughout sneaker fans, which is a really interesting thing when you consider when I first started looking at sneakers, I didn't really consider New Balance as a shoe that I would purchase. Something that I like to think about this as well is relating it back to Digital Simple. We have grown as the performance marketing people. Like I said, we've managed a lot of ad spend. We've driven a lot of sales for our clients. We approximately 18 months ago started a real focus on our brand and our impression in the market and trying to have some control over that dialogue. We've seen huge increases in referrals and overall awareness. I still get stopped by people and things like that off the work that I've done from a personal brand perspective, which I find really interesting. And I found it crazy that it also happens when I'm outside of Christchurch. It happens in Auckland and Wellington and other places like that too. We're definitely seeing a benefit also in terms of average order size and the quality and the size of the customers that we're able to attract through a more brand-based marketing. It's something that I just think everyone should really consider, is what are the foundations that you're laying for the future rather than the work that you're doing that's scratching the sales itch right now. So a few final takeaways just for you to consider. What is your split currently for your marketing budget between brand and performance-based marketing? And is it stacked heavily enough towards brand for you to be building something bigger than your funnel? And also, the other final piece is, what would more brand awareness mean to your business, and is it something that's worth investing in? I think when you think about that, it makes the answer really obvious. Thank you for listening.